On a cold, snowy night, this poor girl wanted to jump from the rooftop to end her miserable life, but when she thought about the bullies, who were still living freely and unpunished, her will for revenge rose strongly. She was determined to make her bullies pay a heavy price. Dong-hee was originally a hard-working and obedient girl, but because her breasts were bigger than those of her peers, her friends were jealous of her and bullied her with brutal torture. Every day, Dong-hee had to crawl in the gymnasium until she was exhausted. She was also tortured by her friends with a 200-degree curling iron. The gymnasium was filled with Dong-hee's miserable screams. Unable to bear it any longer, Dong-hee could only ask the police for help. Unexpectedly, the bullies' parents bribed the police, so the police only criticized the bullies and let the parents take them home. Dong-hee thought she was about to be freed from her painful days, but in the end, she was beaten even more severely by the bullies. The next day, Dong-hee went to the infirmary to get antiseptic. The nurse immediately rolled up Dong-hee's sleeve. The terrible burn left the nurse extremely surprised. The nurse asked Dong-hee who did this to her, but Dong-hee was too scared to tell the nurse. At this moment, a familiar bell rang. A female student pulled the curtain open and frankly answered that, "I did it. Even the previous times Dong-hee was injured, I was the one who did it all." This female student's name was Yeon-jin. Because Yeon-jin's family was rich, she always had an extremely arrogant attitude. Even the nurse couldn't do anything to Yeon-jin. At night, Yeon-jin's group broke into Dong-hee's room without permission. First, they cut open Dong-hee's piggy bank and then poured all the change on the ground. It seemed that they did this to show off their upper-class status. At this moment, Yeon-jin suddenly glanced over. She saw Dong-hee's slender white legs and then looked at the iron on the floor. Yeon-jin suddenly thought of a new idea, and so Dong-hee was brutally tortured by them with the iron again. In the end, Dong-hee decided to drop out of school in despair. The homeroom teacher was worried when he saw Dong-hee's reason for dropping out of school was school violence on her leave application. He was afraid that it would affect his career path. Dong-hee then mentioned the homeroom teacher's son. She said what would happen if his son was also abused like her. Dong-hee's words made the homeroom teacher furious. He immediately took off his watch and asked Dong-hee what happened to his son. Then the homeroom teacher slapped Dong-hee in the face. While hitting Dong-hee, he told her to repeat what she had just said. The other teachers advised the homeroom teacher to stop hitting Dong-hee, but he didn't listen at all. He kept hitting Dong-hee's face. Only when he calmed down did he stop. Yeon-jin's mother went to see Dong-hee's mother for the sake of her daughter's honor. She hoped that Dong-hee could change the reason on the leave application. Unexpectedly, when Dong-hee's mother saw such a large amount of money, she happily agreed without hesitation. When Dong-hee returned to her rented room, there was only one empty room left. The landlord told Dong-hee that the room had been returned. Dong-hee saw that the reason on the leave application had been changed to because she couldn't adapt to this learning environment. Dong-hee was completely disappointed in her mother, so Dong-hee sadly went to the riverbank. But the cold river water erased Dong-hee's desire to leave this world. Dong-hee thought that even if she wasn't afraid of death, there was nothing she wouldn't dare to do. So the next day, Dong-hee went to the gymnasium alone. Yeon-jin's group had also found a new target for bullying. Dong-hee went on to list the dreams of each person in the group of bullies. Sara wanted to be a painter, while Jae-jun dreamed of inheriting the golf course. Hae-jung wanted to be a flight attendant. Then Dong-hee asked Yeon-jin if her dream was to be a good mother and a good wife. As soon as Dong-hee finished speaking, the bullies immediately burst into contemptuous laughter. Yeon-jin asked what Dong-hee's dream was. Dong-hee replied that her dream was to become someone like Yeon-jin. From today on, Dong-hee's dream would be Yeon-jin. Dong-hee said that they would definitely meet again. Then Dong-hee smiled extremely scary. The bullies looked at Dong-hee with disbelief, as if they had never known Dong-hee. Since then, Dong-hee started working non-stop. During the day, she worked as a bricklayer in the factory. At night, she studied high school by herself under the dim light in the hallway. There was a girl in the factory who was afraid that her footsteps would disturb Dong-hee's studies, so every time she returned to the dormitory, she took off her shoes. Finally, Dong-hee's efforts were rewarded. She passed the university entrance exam as she wished and started her next life goal. Elsewhere, Yeon-jin and Jae-jun were maintaining a relationship that they couldn't let others know about. Thought that the two of them could be happy together for the rest of their lives. Unexpectedly, Yeon-jin wore a wedding dress and married a rich man named Do-young. When Jae-jun saw Yeon-jin's happy face, he was extremely angry. At such an important moment, Dong-hee couldn't help but appear. Dong-hee sincerely wished Yeon-jin happiness, but the joys and sorrows in life do not stop at marriage. 10 years have passed, and all the members of the bully group have fulfilled their high school dreams. Sara has become a famous painter, as she wished. Jae-jun has also inherited a golf course and become rich. Hae-jung has become a flight attendant. She is always thinking of ways to become the daughter-in-law son-in-law of a tycoon family. Yeonjin has become a weather editor. She doesn't know how to write a manuscript and also looks down on new employees. Myung-oh, the person who was erranded from high school, is still by Jae-jun's side, living an extremely miserable life. Dong-hee, in order to make a living, even though she wants revenge, she still has to tutor several places at the same time while studying at university. This time, Dong-hee went to a male student's house to tutor. The male student said that if Dong-hee showed him her breasts, he would get a high score this time. Then he smugly said that Dong-hee would get the money if his ranking increased anyway. Dong-hee was still very calm when faced with the perverted words of this student. This was nothing compared to what she had experienced before. Dong-hee took out the phone that was in the middle of the conversation. Dong-hee asked the male student's mother, "If you knew that I had recorded everything, right?" Dong-hee said that you could pay me to keep quiet. The male student hurriedly said that if Dong-hee wanted to be a teacher, she wouldn't be allowed to do that, but Dong-hee replied in a calm voice. She asked the male student if she wasn't allowed. Then Dong-hee wished the male student good luck on his exam. After saying that, she immediately went home. On the way home, Dong-hee suddenly fainted. When she woke up, she was already in the hospital. The person who was taken to the hospital with Dong-hee was the director's son, Yo-jung. When the two looked at each other, Yo-jung was attracted to Dong-hee. As soon as Yo-jung pulled out the IV needle for Dong-hee, he accidentally saw the burn on her arm. Dong-hee was scared and quickly pulled down her sleeve, then grabbed her bag and left. The doctor brought Dong-hee's health certificate and didn't see her. Yo-jung looked at the certificate and knew that Dong-hee was severely anemic and wanted her to go to the hospital for a checkup. So Yo-jung went to Dong-hee's school through the address. At this time, Dong-hee smiled and walked towards Yo-jung. He thought she missed him, so he quickly went to greet her. But Dong-hee called her senior and walked towards a male student. The two of them chatted happily with each other. It turned out that it was all just Yo-jung's illusion. He sadly left. As for Yeonjin, after getting married, she had a happy life with Do-young. She also gave birth to a lovely daughter named Ye-sol. One day, Do-young told Yeonjin that Hye-jung had told others a lot about their high school days. After hearing this, Yeonjin worriedly asked her husband if it included her story. What did Hye-jung tell? Yeonjin is very worried that Hye-jung will tell others about her bullying of her friends in high school. But Do-young replied that Hye-jung was only talking about her achievements back then. When Yeonjin heard this, she immediately breathed a sigh of relief. In order to prevent Hye-jung from revealing her past, Yeonjin immediately made an appointment to meet Sara and Hye-jung. But Hye-jung's family was not well off, so her parents opened a laundry shop. The whole family lived off this laundry shop, so Hye-jung often secretly wore clothes that customers sent to be washed and ironed. This time Hye-jung also chose an expensive dress, which clearly did not fit her. Sara warned Hye-jung to be more sensible. If it weren't for Dong-hee back then, Hye-jung would have been the one bullied, and she would have been the one burned. Yeonjin also went over to warn Hye-jung that it was okay to hang out with friends, but she had to know what not to say. Don't mention their high school days in front of others. It's not something to be proud of. Thought Hye-jung would cry, but unexpectedly, she took out her phone and posted it on social media to show that she was very close to Sara and Yeonjin. The strange thing was that after Yeonjin got married, Dong-hee had another target to follow, which was Yeonjin's husband, Do-young. Dong-hee discovered that Do-young really liked Go, so she started to learn Go by herself. Dong-hee also went to the park to watch the old men play Go. When Dong-hee was about to leave, she met Yo-jung, who was also watching. After the two talked, Yo-jung knew that Dong-hee wanted to learn Go, so he volunteered to be her teacher because he was very good at Go. Dong-hee asked if she could study at night because she still had to tutor. So every day the two of them played chess together under the big tree in the park. Together they watched the spring, summer, fall and winter pass by. But the day of farewell had come. Dong-hee told Yo-jung that she would not come anymore because she needs to take revenge on someone. Dong-hee's path of revenge officially began when she got her teaching degree. Dong-hee's goal was to make Yeonjin have no one by her side. Even her daughter Ye-sol, that Yeonjin was always proud of, would eventually abandon her. One day Dong-hee stopped by Jae-jun's branded store. Dong-hee used the excuse of buying shoes to accidentally meet Myung-oh, who was working for Jae-jun. Because Dong-hee knew that Myung-oh was extremely dissatisfied with Jae-jun, she took advantage of the resentment in Myung-oh's heart. Her goal was to deliberately break up his relationship with Jae-jun. Dong-hee said that she really hoped that all of these things would belong to Myung-oh immediately. Myung-oh told Dong-hee not to stay here and pretend to be smart. While talking, Dong-hee deliberately revealed that she had learned some shocking news, but because the content of this news was too stimulating, she couldn't bear it alone. So Myung, without any suspicion, fell into Dong-hee's trap. At this time, the real estate broker called and said that the apartment building Dong-hee wanted to buy had a vacant room. Dong-hee immediately brought her seal and went there to sign the contract. She bought the house opposite Yeonjin's house, as she wished. When Dong-hee looked towards Yeonjin's house, the scar on her arm itched more and more. In order to become a teacher at Samyeong City Elementary School, Dong-hee started to collect information about the chairman of the conglomerate. When she was rummaging through the trash cans for evidence, she was discovered by a maid named Hyun-nam. Hyun-nam said that although Dong-hee avoided the surveillance cameras, she had Dong Dong-hee's photo on her phone. She had been taking photos continuously for 6 months. Dong-hee thought that the matter had been exposed, so she planned to bribe her with money. Unexpectedly, Hyun-nam told Dong-hee, "I saw that you persisted for half a year, and what you needed to do was almost successful." So Hyun-nam wanted to join Dong-hee's side to help her. At the same time, Hyun-nam also asked Dong-hee to help her. Dong-hee asked Hyun-nam what she needed help with. Hyun-nam replied that it was to kill my husband. Dong-hee was extremely surprised when she heard that. She didn't know what could make Hyun-nam say such cruel words. It turned out that Hyun-nam had been abused by her husband for a long time. She often had injuries on her body. Her husband not only beat her, but also beat her daughter. The mother and daughter were extremely pitiful. Dong-hee saw Hyun-nam's plight, so she decided to help. Dong-hee then gave Hyun-nam a lot of photos and information she had collected. She hoped that Hyun-nam could help her track Yeonjin and Jae-jun, and so the revenge group was officially formed. Dong-hee no longer fought alone. Hyun-nam followed Yeonjin's group regularly. Then one day she accidentally discovered Yeonjin taking daughter to the eye hospital. Dong-hee remembered that when she was in school, a male student mocked Jae-jun for being colorblind. In the end, that male student was beaten to the point of almost dying. Luckily, Myung-oh stopped Jae-jun in time, otherwise a murder would have happened. In another development, Do-young often went to a Go club to hone his skills. While he was concentrating on playing Go, he was attracted by a sound nearby, because the woman in front of him not only had good Go skills, but also had great style. Do-young immediately went to the crowd and focused on watching Dong-hee play. Dong-hee told her opponent that he had no way out, and if he lost now, he would lose 10 territories. Do-young thought about Dong-hee's words. After comparing them to the board, he immediately understood the meaning behind those words. Dong-hee's opponent lost the match in no time. Dong-hee's chess skills and knowledge of Go successfully attracted Do-young's attention. After returning home, Do-young immediately demonstrated Dong-hee's game. She could have clearly won from the start, but she waited a long time to finish. He thought about it for a long time, but still couldn't understand this action. Yeonjin saw Do-young deep in thought and asked who that person was. Do-young said that it was someone from the Go club. Do-young then asked Yeonjin if something was wrong. Yeonjin said she planned to sleep for a while and then go to work. She also said she didn't understand why Do-young liked Go so much. Do-young asked back why she smoked when it was bad for her health. Yeonjin asked Do-young. He obviously didn't like cigarettes, but why did he marry a woman who smoked? Do-young also gave an answer that satisfied Yeonjin. Do-young replied that because Yeonjin was not only beautiful but also had an interesting personality. After Dong-hee left the Go club, she started tutoring at home. Today, Dong-hee got on the train as promised to tutor Hyun-nam's daughter, but she met Yo-jung on the train. Yo-jung looked straight at Dong-hee. He was confused, thinking he had seen the wrong person. He asked Dong-hee if she had taken the exam yet. After Yo-jung received the answer yes, he congratulated her. Dong-hee thanked Yo-jung. Although the two hadn't seen each other for a long time, Dong-hee heard people talking at the park and learned that Yo-jung had been doing military service for the past few years. The two talked about many things. As they were about to leave, Yo-jung gave Dong-hee his business card. He hoped that they could keep in touch. When they got home, Dong-hee was reading the mail when she met the landlady. The landlady wondered why Dong-hee had rented a room in such a hurry but left it empty for more than half a year. She explained that she had not been accepted as a school teacher yet, so she was still trying, and this envelope was an important message from Hyun-nam. She made an appointment to meet Dong-hee. In the video, Hyun-nam discovered that the school board chairman had a homosexual relationship with the driver. She also dubbed over the ambiguous conversation between the two. Only then did Dong-hee remember the medicine box and the torn will she found in the trash can earlier. Dong-hee immediately understood why the chairman wanted to divide the property with the driver. Not long after, Dong-hee went to see the chairman. She used this to threaten him to let her become a teacher at the city elementary school. In the end, Dong-hee successfully became the homeroom teacher of Yeonjin's daughter. Today, Yeonjin returned to her old school to receive an award as an excellent student. At this moment, Dong-hee walked towards them. Her name had long been forgotten, but the students who bullied Dong-hee before became excellent students. This was so unfair. Dong-hee watched Yeonjin stand on stage to receive the award. She shouted loudly and praised Yeonjin for being so good. The bullies looked at Dong-hee's crazy actions. They all had looks of disbelief. After receiving the award, Yeonjin not only slapped Dong-hee, but also questioned Dong-hee about her purpose in coming here today. Dong-hee said that she still remembered Yeonjin's dream in high school was to have a prestigious job and marry a talented man at the most beautiful age. Obviously, Yeonjin had achieved both. Dong-hee was very envious when she saw their friendship maintained from high school until now. Jae-jun said that Dong-hee's high school days were boring, but her life now seemed to be more interesting. Dong-hee only responded with a mocking tone. Dong-hee also deliberately told Yeonjin that I would monitor your actions at all times. Dong-hee said that she was happy to meet them. She also told Jae-jun that he probably didn't know what an interesting life was like. After saying that, Dong-hee left, leaving the bullies standing there angrily. They had no idea that they were about to face a very severe punishment. Ever since that class reunion, Yeonjin ordered Myung-oh to investigate Dong-hee, but she had no idea that Myung-oh had been on Dong-hee's side for a long time. At this time, Yeonjin's daughter Ye-sol called. Ye-sol said that the old homeroom teacher had quit her job, and the new homeroom teacher was not only kind but also Yeonjin's friend. Yeonjin asked her daughter who that person was. Ye-sol immediately replied that the new teacher was Dong-hee. Yeonjin couldn't keep calm after hearing that. She was afraid that Dong-hee would use violence against Ye-sol, so she anxiously went to school. When Yeonjin met Dong-hee, she even said that she had fallen into Dong-hee's trap now. She thought that Dong-hee would live like a beggar, then marry another beggar, and live the life of a low-class person. Dong-hee said that although the path she had walked was extremely difficult, how could she die early if the bad guys hadn't been punished? Yeonjin faced Dong-hee calmly without any fear. She could only pretend not to care. Before leaving, Yeonjin received a message in her class group. It turned out that the homeroom teacher from high school had passed away. When Yeonjin saw Dong-hee so calm, she immediately understood that this was also part of Dong-hee's revenge plan. A few days ago, Dong-hee went to the homeroom teacher's house with a bouquet of fresh flowers. She asked him if he was doing well. Then she introduced herself as Dong-hee. The homeroom teacher asked her who she was. Dong-hee said that she was a student he used to teach. She was the student Dong-hee had submitted her withdrawal request in 2004. Dong-hee asked him if he didn't remember. The homeroom teacher was extremely shocked when he heard the name Dong-hee. At this time, they met a senior at Dong-hee's school. He said that this was his house, and Dong-hee's homeroom teacher was his father. Dong-hee pretended to be surprised, but in fact, she already knew that this senior was the homeroom teacher's son. That's why she approached him on purpose. Dong-hee then told the homeroom teacher that she had become a teacher. The homeroom teacher remembered his bad attitude towards Dong-hee in high school. At that time, he even beat her because of his son's matter. He thought for sure that Dong-hee came here to take revenge. Dong-hee thanked the teacher and quickly gave him the bouquet. The senior quickly told Dong-hee to give him the bouquet because his father had asthma and couldn't smell pollen, especially trumpet lily. Dong-hee knew that the senior had passed the civil service exam and only had to have an interview. The teacher thought that Dong-hee wanted to ruin his son's future, so he beat and scolded her. At this time, Dong-hee didn't hide it anymore. She told him directly about being bullied at school. She also told the senior about the complaint letter incident. The senior was extremely angry when he heard these words. He had worked very hard to pass the civil service exam, so he couldn't let a father with a sinful past ruin his bright future. So the senior deliberately made up an incident similar to a pollen allergy, and just like that, the teacher was killed by his own son. At this moment, Yeonjin's face was filled with fear. She couldn't see through Dong-hee in front of her. Dong-hee warned Yeonjin not to think about transferring Ye-sol to another school and replacing the homeroom teacher. Yeonjin deserved all these consequences. After leaving school, Yeonjin recalled what happened just now and went crazy, but she couldn't do anything. On the other side, Dong-hee also sped up her revenge. First, she went to see the person who had helped her in high school. Dong-hee heard from the nurse and learned that before she was bullied, there was also a female student who was bullied by Yeonjin's group. But at that time, Dong-hee was young and couldn't help. But now Dong-hee was about to start a battle of revenge. The nurse only made one request, which was that Dong-hee must win. No matter if it was Dong-hee at 18 years old or Dong-hee at 36 years old, the nurse supported Dong-hee. Hearing this, Dong-hee immediately burst into tears because the nurse was the only hope to help Dong-hee become stronger. Dong-hee then went to see Myeom-oh. She got the list of drugs that Sara used from Myeom-oh. She also got the information that Hae-jung collected in order to marry into a rich family. Dong-hee then gave Myeon-oh a piece of paper that could help him get a huge sum of money as a condition of her exchange this time. Myeon-oh then went to the hospital according to the address written on the paper, which was where the body of the bullied female student Spesant So-hee was kept. Because So-hee's family believed that she did not leave this world on her own, they had not agreed to cremate her, so she could only be kept in the hospital for a long time. Dong-hee's purpose on the outside was to incite Nyang-oh to go and ask the murderer for money. Dong-hee said that this was a way for him to get rich, but in reality, Dong-hee wanted Myeom-oh to die. But the innocent Myeom-oh still didn't know anything. He wanted to know who the culprit was, so he went to see Dong-hee again. Myeon-oh guessed that the culprit, other than him, was one of the bullies. Myeon-oh suspected that Sara did it because she used drugs, or that Yeonjin was the most evil person in the bullies. Myeon-oh said that he and Dong-hee were on the same side. Myeon-oh asked Dong-an who among the four was the culprit who killed So-hee. Dong-hee told Myeon-oh that the culprit killed So-hee, but Myeon-oh's purpose was not simple. He bought a one-way ticket abroad first, then called the four bullies one by one to ask for a private meeting. Among them was Yeonjin's husband Do-young, but since then, they have not been able to contact Myeon-oh anymore. On the other side, since Dong-hee became Yeonjin's daughter's homeroom teacher, Yeonjin has been extremely worried every day. Yeonjin is afraid that Dong-hee will torture Ye-sol with a curling iron like she did. Ye-sol is very confused by her mother's behavior. Ye-sol asks her mother why she has to put a hot object on another person's body. Ye-sol says that doing so is too cruel. Ye-sol's words make Yeonjun very heartbroken. In order to protect Ye-sol's safety, Yeonjun goes to see the school principal. Through his story, Yeonjun knew that Dong-hee was able to become a homeroom teacher because the school board chairman arranged it. Dong-hee's background also has no flaws. Yeonjun leaves the principal's office and goes to Ye-sol's class. She accidentally sees Dong-hee standing behind Ye-sol. In order to provoke Yeonjun, Dong-hee deliberately puts her hand holding the scissors right behind Ye-sol's back. This makes Yeonjun, who is outside the door, even more worried. She wanted to use money to settle the past abuse with Dong-hee. Yeonjun wanted Dong-hee to write down the amount of money Dong-gun wanted and promised to never appear in her life again. Then Yeonjun would agree to all of Dong-hee's conditions. Dong-hee asked Yeonjun if she didn't really feel guilty. Yeonjun immediately replied that Dong-hee didn't do it for money. Then Yeonjun said that they were both almost 40 years old. She advised Dong-hee to be realistic. The past was all in the past. What else did Dong-hee want now? Dong-hee saw that Yeonjun didn't show any remorse, so Dong-hee had no intention of forgiving her. Dong-hee just wanted her to be punished by law. Then Dong-hee told her that Ye-sol couldn't tell the difference between red and blue. Only then did Yeonjun realize that Dong-hee knew the secrets she had hidden for many years. Then Dong-hee said that I wanted you to slowly hate life, hate every day you live. When Yeonjun saw that money could not solve this problem, Yeonjun persuaded Do-young to let Ye-sol study abroad. Do-young was very confused by her actions. He told Yeonjun to give a good reason before deciding, but Yeonjun could not tell Do-young the real situation. She could only find an excuse to let it go. Ever since Do-young saw Dong-hee play chess, he came to the club every day to see if Dong-hee was there, but he still left disappointed like the previous times. Just as Do-young was about to leave, he suddenly saw Dong-hee. This time, Do-young finally got to play chess with Dong-hee as he wished, and all of this was part of Dong-hee's plan. Do-young really wanted to know more about the woman in front of him. He asked Dong-hee what her job was, but she replied that her job was to deceive innocent men and make them cry. This answer clearly made him laugh. Do-young asked Dong-hee if she made a lot of money. Dong-hee said that it wasn't much because she was a good person. Dong-hee gave completely different answers to Do-young's questions, which made him want to know more about her. When Dong-hee won the game and was about to leave, Do-young asked her to play another game. Unexpectedly, this also successfully made him fall into Dong-hee's trap. After finishing, she went to the convenience store to have dinner. Do-young walked by and started a conversation. He asked Dong-hee a lot of things, to the point that she had to ask him if he always talked so much. Do-young said that he was usually quiet. He also told Dong-hee to believe it or not. Perhaps even Do-young himself could not understand his behavior today. Before leaving, he gave his business card to Dong-hee and hoped that the two could continue playing Go together, but Dong-hee did not agree and keep distance and make him more curious. Unexpectedly, the scene of the two meeting was taken by someone else. On the other side, Hyunam took advantage of Haejong's inattention to swap her phone, and so Dong-hee discovered a lot of information from the phone. Not only were there photos of Haejong with many different men, but there was also information that she was about to get married. It turned out that Haejong was the one with the lowest status in the group of bullies. Haejong wanted to satisfy her greed, so she could only raise her status by marrying a rich man. Not only was the man in front of her extremely rich, he was also his mother's beloved son. Unexpectedly, the mother didn't like Haejong very much. Before the marriage, she asked Haejong to have a physical examination. She also thoroughly investigated Haejong's family background. Haejong tried her best to disguise herself in front of her. While they were talking, she suddenly called out to teacher Dong-hee. She complimented Dong-hee for being even more beautiful today. Dong-hee looked at Haejong and then called her name in surprise. Haejong was extremely surprised to see Dong-hee being so close to her lover's mother. She knew Dong-hee's purpose in coming here. In order to successfully marry Ai off the traffic lights into a rich family, Haejong lowered herself to her knees and begged Dong-hee for forgiveness. Haejong said that what happened in high school was not something she wanted to do. She said that she was not mature at that time. Haejong said that everyone makes mistakes when they grow up. Then she kept begging Dong-hee. After Dong-hee heard this, she asked if this was a mistake or intentional. After saying that, Dong-hee immediately pulled out the red-hot wooden stick and brought it in front of Haejong, making her scared and continuously step back. Haejong loudly asked Dong-hee if he was crazy. She said she was a flight attendant, but Dong-hee said, I have to go through this fear every day. Haejong asked Dong-hee if you couldn't forgive me just once. Then Haejong asked Dong-hee not to tell her lover's mother. Jung also asked Dong-hee not to contact her lover's mother anymore. Just wait until she gets married. Haejong said that she had already quit her job. If she couldn't get married, she would have no more source of income. Haejong saw that she had knelt down, but still did not get any mercy from Dong-hee, so she stopped begging. Dong-hee took out the phone that Haejong had lost and said, I have read the main content of it. Now, you only had one choice, which was to side with Mai and give me the information I needed. At the same time, Dong-hee also came to find Sarah. Dong-hee used the fact that she was using drugs to threaten her. Dong-hee asked Sarah to fill this bag with dollar bills within half a month. Sarah asked Dong-hee if he was threatening me. Dong-hee then asked her if she had never been threatened. While the two were arguing, Dong-hee grabbed Sarah's hair and pulled out a thick amount of hair. Then Dong-eun said that I haven't started threatening you yet. Elsewhere, Yojong had to listen to the sound of effervescent tablets dissolving every day to fall asleep. It seemed that only this sound could calm him down. At this time, a kind colleague heard Yojong's phone ringing and woke up Yojong, who was sleeping soundly. When Yojong saw that the person who sent him the message was Dong-hee, Yojong immediately sat up in shock, screaming loudly, thinking that his phone was broken. Yojong was surprised because it took her 7 years to reply to his message. It turned out that Yojong had taught Dong-hee to play Go for 7 years. Although he had always sent messages to Dong-hee after that, he had never received a reply. Today, Dong-hee saw the old men playing Go in the park and suddenly remembered her past. She reread Yojong's message asking about her health that she never replied to, so Dong-hee immediately used the excuse of asking Yojong about the medicine she was taking to reply to him. That's why Yojong was so happy. He called Dong-hee and told them to meet and talk in person. Then he asked her where she was. That night, the two of them still went to the big tree that had been their friend for the past 7 years. Yojong knew that Dong-hee was staying to be a teacher at Semyeong City Elementary School, and that medicine box was a special medicine for men's fertility. Yojong was jealous and thought it was from the man Dong-hee liked. Dong-hee explained that it wasn't like that, but in fact, Yojong knew that she was just making an excuse to reject him. Dong-hee hoped that he wouldn't send her messages again in the future. Yojong really didn't know why she was like that, but he advised Dong-hee to do what she wanted to do, but she also needed to date him because he would make her happy. When Dong-hee heard Yojong's confession, Dong-hee felt that the happiness at that moment was not real at all. She thought that her miserable life would continue forever, that all she wanted was revenge. Although she had feelings for Yojong, she still didn't have the courage to love him. Dong-hee said that she didn't need love because what she needed was not love but someone who could accompany her. Yojong thought about what Dong-hee said, even though he didn't understand it yet, but no matter what Dong-hee decided, he would support her. So Yojong went to see his mother, the dean of the hospital. He told her that he had no intention of becoming a professor and was preparing to resign. Yojong wanted to go to Semyeong to open his own hospital because the person he liked lived in that city. His mother asked if Yojong has a person he loved. Yojong said that it wasn't that far yet. He also asked his mother if she knew that there was a type of person in this world who lived a very introverted life. The mother was very confused by her son's actions. She said that he did not do that to earn money, nor to go to a place that needed medical staff to support, but to go out for love, right? The mother also asked Yojong if he still had the strength of a man. In order to get Dong-hee out of school, Yeonjin tried every way possible, but in the end, it was all in vain. She could only go to the temple with her mother and use this method to eliminate the risk of Dong-hee's revenge. Yeonjin's mother insisted on reporting Dong-hee's evil deeds to the Ministry of Education, but Yeonjin objected because she was more afraid that Ye-sol would know about her bullying friends in high school. The mother said that I had told you before. I told you not to reform, but you wouldn't listen. While working, Yeonjin was always in a state of tension. She often went on the company's forum to see if there were any posts that were unfavorable to her, but she heard her colleagues laughing at her for not knowing how to write news scripts. She was able to become a host because of her husband's huge advertising fee. After hearing this, Yeonjin immediately went to provoke her colleagues. She asked questions that made her colleagues angry. In the end, Yeonjin completely dominated this debate. Yeonjin used her momentum to warn her colleagues that if they continue to gossip like this, don't blame her for telling the director of the TV station all the bad things about her colleagues. Then her colleagues would lose their jobs, so they had to give up. That night, Yeonjin had dinner with the police chief. She hoped to find Dong-hee quickly, but the chief used the excuse that the situation was complicated to reject her. In fact, the chief just wanted to receive higher remuneration. It turned out that the chief had sent some thugs to follow Dong-hee. After they were discovered by Dong-hee, she wanted to quickly distract them, so Dong-hee sped up to let the thugs chase her. She even deliberately stopped the car at the intersection, which caused the thugs to show up. Because their car was rented, they couldn't leave any records with the police, so they had to agree to a private settlement. After the group left, Dong-hee breathed a sigh of relief. Thinking back, she was still scared. Hyun-nam knew what happened and rushed to check if Dong-hee was injured, but Hyun-nam was suspected by Dong-hee. Hyun-nam immediately said that I was chasing after you when I saw someone following you, so I followed you here. Every day, Hyun-nam only dreamed of having a happy dinner with her daughter, without any other thoughts. Dong-hee also realized that she shouldn't have doubted Hyun-nam, so she immediately apologized. Dong-hee would help Hyun-nam fulfill her dream. Dong-hee also made it clear that they were just partners working together to carry out a revenge plan. Dong-hee then went to an auto repair shop. When Dong-hee heard the sound of grilled meat on the grill, she suddenly remembered the burn she got from a curling iron in high school. After that, Dong-hee carelessly kicked her phone off the floor under the table. However, the after effects of that injury made her even more uncomfortable. She was completely not enough conscious to see where her phone was. While Dong-hee was looking around, she carelessly dropped something on the table. Dong-hee saw that many people cared about her, making her even more helpless. Then Dong-hee went to the meeting place with Yojong. Yojong saw that Dong-eun was not only panic-stricken, but her clothes were also covered in black oil stains, so he guessed that something must have happened happened to her. In order to continue rejecting Yeojung, Dong-hee told him about she was being bullied in high school. Moreover, she had decided to spend her whole life on revenge, so she could only win and not lose. Yeojung asked Dong-hee if she had ever thought about stopping her revenge, because Dong-hee's life was much more important than those bullies, and after the revenge was over, Dong-hee's life would become extremely bland. Yeojung's words made Dong-hee think that he had lived a full and happy life since he was young. He had never experienced hardship before. Yeojung was extremely terrified when he saw the large and small burns on Dong-hee's arm. Dong-hee said that he was already terrified just by seeing an arm. So did he still want to help her? After speaking, Dong-hee walked under the light and slowly took off her coat. Yeojung saw the crisscrossing scars left after being burned on Dong-hee's body. This scene made him both angry and heartbroken. He couldn't believe that there were such cruel people in this world. Dong-hee said that she had lost all dignity. She told him to go back because she must take revenge. But at this moment, Yeojung said that he agreed. He would be her companion. Then he slowly put his coat on Dong-hee. Yeojung told her that next time she encountered difficulties, she should contact him because he had also struggled in despair like that, so he knew how unpleasant anger was. Yeojung also asked who Dong-hee wanted to win when she learned go from him. Dong-hee immediately said that it was Yeonjin's husband, because Dong-hee wanted to end revenge and have no one by Yeonjin's side. Dong-hee wanted Yeonjin to have no friends and parents, no daughter and husband, no one to accompany her, and no one to receive any love. Dong-hee seemed to have a terrifying appearance, but Yeojung, who had always been gentle, was hiding a terrifying secret. He had a happy family. Yeojung's father was also the director of a hospital. Yeojung's kind father agreed to perform surgery on a prisoner because of his medical ethics. Unexpectedly, after the surgery, the prisoner used his own surgical knife to kill him. Unable to accept this, Yeojung fell into extreme resentment for a long time. Only when Yeojung played Go with Dong-hee did he feel at peace. But what was even more hateful was that the prisoner had absolutely no remorse. He even sent letters to Yeojung every month. That day, Yeojung's colleague delivered the letter to Yeojung's mother. After seeing the contents of the letter, Yeonjung's mother felt extremely angry. In it, the prisoner described in detail how he murdered Yeojung's father. The prisoner even boasted about it. Yeojung's mother had no idea that her son had been harassed by the prisoner for so many years. It could be said that the hatred inside Yeojung was no less than Dong-hee's. Yeojung also often fantasized about how he would take revenge at his house. After Yeojung's mother found out that the prisoner had been sending letters to Yeojung for a long time, she immediately went to the prison to see the prisoner. At first, he pretended to be remorseful, but as soon as the prisoner realized that the matter had been exposed, he immediately stopped pretending. The prisoner also said bluntly that Yeojung's family of 3 were all doctors. Every doctor would always have their own noble beliefs. Therefore, Yeojung's father's death was himself own doing. When Yeojung's mother heard these words, she was extremely angry. She shouted loudly and cursed the prisoner, calling him a bastard. At this time, Jae-jun unexpectedly received a children's toothbrush, inside which he was told to do a DNA test. Jae-jun didn't understand what was going on but still did it. Later, Jae-jun discovered that he suddenly had another daughter, and this girl was Yeonjin's daughter, Ye-sol. Jae-jun was extremely excited and ran to Ye-sol's school. Ye-sol was waiting to cross the street but couldn't distinguish the color of the traffic lights, so Jae-jun was even more certain that Ye-sol was his daughter. Jae-jun happily rushed to Ye-sol's side, but when he heard the continuous sound of car horns at the school gate, Jae-jun suddenly got angry and cursed loudly. His fierce appearance made Ye-sol feel scared. Immediately after that, Jae-jun went to find a lawyer to find out about custody. He wanted to take Ye-sol back from Yeonjin, but the lawyer told Jae-jun that even if he filed a lawsuit, the custody of the child could not be given to him. Because Ye-sol was born out of the legal marriage between Yeonjin and Do-young, Ye-sol's father was still Do-young. Even if Jae-jun got a DNA test, legally the court would not consider giving Ye-sol back to him, unless Yeonjin and Do-young divorced. As soon as Jae-jun heard this, he immediately went to Yeonjin to question her. Jae-jun questioned her why she turned his child into someone else's daughter. Jae-jun strangled Yeonjin to force her to tell the truth. Jae-jun asked Yeonjin if she only found out after giving birth that the child was his, or if she had deliberately hidden the truth from the beginning. When she already knew she was pregnant with his child, she still chose to continue that fake marriage. Was she so determined to abandon him until the end? Then Jae-jun didn't wait for Yeonjin to reply before immediately rushing in to kiss her. Yeonjin, wanting to relieve Jae-jun's anger, responded to his kiss. It was unclear whether Yeonjin loved Do-young or Jae-jun in the end. At this time, Do-young was playing soccer with Ye-sol when he discovered that his daughter had mistaken the color of a classmate's shirt. But Do-young didn't care about this at all. Ye-sol told Do-young that there would be an extracurricular activity at school next week, so she wanted his to come. Do-young also suddenly remembered that Yeonjin had said before that she didn't like Ye-sol's current homeroom teacher. Hearing that, Ye-sol immediately asked why her mother didn't like her homeroom teacher because they were high school classmates, so it was impossible for them to hate each other. The next day, Do-young went to Ye-sol's school to participate in an extracurricular activity at his daughter's class. But when Do-young turned around, he saw Jae-jun standing right in front of the classroom door. Do-young felt extremely confused as to why Jae-jun appeared here. Jae-jun also said that he had an illegitimate child in this class, and then Jae-jun looked at Do-young with a meaningful expression. Do-young felt extremely uncomfortable with Jae-jun's attitude. To ease the tense atmosphere, Jae-jun had no choice but to lie that he came here to meet an old friend. At this moment, Do-young saw Ye-sol's homeroom teacher walk in, but surprisingly, this person was Dong-hee, who often played Go with him. Do-young didn't want Jae-jun to notice anything unusual, so he quickly changed the topic to Jae-jun and Yeonjun's relationship. After the extracurricular activity ended, Do-young took Ye-sol and prepared to go home. Jae-jun stared at Ye-sol, making Do-young very uncomfortable. Jae-jun continued to vaguely say that Ye-sol was not like Do-young at all, and he even said some challenging words to Do-young, making Do-young angry and leave. Before Do-young left, Jae-jun didn't forget to ask Do-young if he had found Myeon-mo yet, but Do-young replied that he didn't need to look anymore because he would clarify everything today. It turned out that Do-young had received an anonymous letter before. Inside was a photo of him and Dong-hee. Do-young thought that this letter was sent by Myeon-mo, but he couldn't contact Myeon-mo, so Do-young could only go to Jae-jun to ask clearly. Do-young noticed that the tobacco that Jae-jun used was the same as Yeonjun's. Moreover, the movements and appearance of the two of them when using it were identical, which made Do-young suspicious of Yeonjun. After Do-young returned home, he immediately went to the study and saw Yeonjun's high school photo together. This made Do-young's suspicions even more intense. When Yeonjun returned, Do-young immediately questioned her about her frequent meetings with Jae-jun and Myeon-mo, but Yeonjun denied it and said that she often tried on clothes at Jae-jun's store, but that she had not contacted Myeon-mo recently. Yeonjun also said that Myeon-mo often did strange things. She also deliberately asked Do-young if he was threatened by Myeon-mo. When Do-young heard this, he immediately discovered something unusual. He said that both Yeonjun and her friend were the same. As long as he asked about Myeon-mo, they would all say whether Do-young was threatened by Myeon-mo or not. Yeonjun felt worried when she saw Do-young acting strangely. She immediately ran to the car to look for Do-young's driving route and found out that Do-young had gone to see Jae-jun. This made Yeonjun extremely scared. Later, when Yeonjun was bathing Ye-sol, Yeonjun learned another shocking news. Not only did Do-young participate in Ye-sol's school activities today, but Jae-jun was also there. Yeonjun was worried about how long she could keep her secret. After the parent-teacher meeting ended, Jae-jun immediately threatened Dong-hee not to touch Yeonjun's daughter, otherwise he would make her regret it. Dong-hee threatened Jae-jun back that if he wanted to gain custody of Yeonjun's daughter, he could only stand by her side because she was his partner. In exchange for the conditions, Dong-hee showed Jae-jun the picture Ye-sol drew. Jae-jun felt very ashamed when he saw that his daughter had inherited color blindness like him. After leaving, Dong-hee went straight to the bathroom. She kept wiping the stains on her arms because it reminded her of painful memories from the past. Up until now, they only knew that Yeonjun was the mastermind behind Dong-hee's violence, but they didn't know that Jae-jun was also one of the perpetrators who bullied her. So Jae-jun was also on Dong-hee's revenge list. To make the revenge plan go well, Dong-hee went to see Sarah. Sarah brought a bag full of dollars and threw it in front of Dong-hee. Sarah thought that doing so would erase all the sins she had committed, but Dong-hee had no intention of forgiving Sarah. Dong-hee gently told Sarah that after she died, she would definitely go to heaven, because as long as Sarah was alive, this place would be hell. Sarah heard that and immediately sat up, grabbed Dong-hee and asked Dong-hee what Dong-hee meant. Dong-hee warned Sarah to let go or else her drug use would be made public. Sarah was angry but could only let go and let Dong-hee leave. Actually, Dong-hee's purpose in asking Sarah for money was to take Han-nam's daughter abroad. That way, Hyun-nam could take revenge without worrying about anything. Dong-hee went to see Hyun-nam and said that she would speed up the plan. Dong-hee will start the plan on the day Hyun-nam's daughter goes abroad. Dong-hee comforts Hyun-nam that even though she and her daughter will have to endure the pain of separation, only then will her daughter be safe. Moreover, her daughter can also stay away from the violent father and Hyun-nam's revenge plan. Only then can her daughter's original wish be protected. Dong-hee hopes that Hyun-nam can consider this suggestion. At the same time, after Do-young meets Dong-hee at the parent-teacher meeting, he immediately guesses that his acquaintance with Dong-hee is definitely not a coincidence. In order to find out Dong-hee's purpose in approaching him, Do-young went to meet Yeonjun's best friend, Hye-jung, when they were in high school. Do-young doesn't know that Hye-jung has already been known to Dong-hee for her weakness. Hye-jung has been on Dong-hee's side for a long time. Do-young asks Hye-jung about Yeonjun and Dong-hee's relationship. Hye-jung tells Do-young that Dong-hee and Yeonjun were not only high school friends, but Yeonjun had also been bullying Dong-hee for a long time. Do-young suspiciously asked Hye-jung if it was school violence. Hye-jung immediately confirmed it. Hye-jung then told Do-young what Yeonjun had done to Dong-hee in high school. Do-young couldn't believe that Yeonjun had hidden so many things from him, but Hye-jung didn't tell Do-young the whole story. Instead, Haejong mysteriously said that it was a very sensational story. Haejong told Do-young to go back and ask Yeonjin. Do-young suddenly thought of what Dong-hee had said to him. Dong-hee had said that she was gambling with her life and that she had to definitely win. At this time, Do-young also understood Dong-hee's plan to take revenge on Yeonjin. Do-young didn't know how to face Yeonjin, so he went to the park alone and coincidentally saw Yeojong playing chess with some old men. In order to escape the old men, Yeojong asked Do-young to find a reason to help him. The two of them played chess together, but Do-young was extremely worried, so he kept checking his phone. Do-young asked Yeojong if you live nearby. Yeojong said that I had just moved to this area recently. Yeojong also said that the purpose of moving here was to avenge his friend. Do-young felt very funny when faced with this answer. Do-young said that revenge in Korea is not easy, especially when guns are not allowed here. Yeojong retorted that if there are no guns, there are still knives. Guns can shoot from a distance, but knives have to be close to be effective. You need to be close enough to see your eyes reflected in the eyes of your enemy before you act. After returning home, Do-young asked Yeonjin if she knew Dong-hee. Yeonjin looked at Do-young's attitude and expression and guessed that Do-young knew something, so Yeonjin told Do-young that they had been married for 10 years and had a lovely daughter. Yeonjin said that Do-young couldn't abandon her just because of what others said. Yeonjin also said that there was no one in this world who had never made a mistake, so when choosing, Do-young should choose someone outstanding like her. As for things that shouldn't be known, don't try to find out, only then will she and Yesol not be hurt. Although Yeonjin said that she had no intention of letting Dong-hee go, she got all the information about Dong-hee from the police chief. Although Dong-hee's background was not bad, Yeonjin discovered that Dong-hee had a very greedy mother. Dong-hee's mother was currently living a very miserable life. With this information, Yeonjin was sure that the mother would be a breakthrough in defeating Dong-hee. Yeonjin then knew Dong-hee's home address from the police chief. Yeonjin was extremely surprised to find out that Dong-hee lived across the street from her house. With this prime location, all her actions would be monitored by Dong-hee. Thinking of this, Yeonjin felt uneasy, so she immediately found a locksmith to pry open Dong-hee's door. As soon as she entered the house, Yeonjin was terrified by the scene before her eyes. The walls were covered with pictures of bullies. Looking at these pictures, Yeonjin cursed. Yeonjin thought to herself that she shouldn't have bullied Dong-hee in the first place, but should have killed Dong-hee. At the same time, Do-young also found Dong-hee. Although he knew Dong-hee was the victim, after all, Yeonjin had been with him for 10 years, so Do-young still wanted to give Yeonjin a chance to make things right. Dong-hee told Do-young everything about how she intentionally approached him, and even the pictures of the two of them together were sent by her on purpose. After hearing this, Do-young guessed that if Dong-hee wanted to take revenge on Yeonjin, she must have lived near his house. Just like that, while Yeonjin was looking intently at the photos, Do-young also went to Dong-hee's house. The moment the couple met, all of Yeonjin's secrets could no longer be hidden. Do-young saw the door lock being pried open by Yeonjin and entered the house without taking off his shoes. Do-young's feelings for Yeonjin immediately disappeared. Do-young felt like he didn't know the woman in front of him. Yeonjin told Do-young that anyone could come here but not him. She asked Do-young if he didn't love her anymore. Unexpectedly, their entire conversation was heard by Dong-hee in the next room. Do-young asked Yeonjin if she had ever tortured someone to death or killed someone with words. Yeonjin resolutely refused to admit it. She even said that she was the victim. Furthermore, Yeonjin also used the excuse that her relationship with Dong-hee was just not very harmonious and that she had never bullied Dong-hee. After Yeonjin left, Do-young seriously looked at the photos on the wall. Suddenly, he saw a photo of Jae-jun and Ye-sol together. Through the photo, Do-young recalled the past and Jae-jun's strange behavior. It seemed that Do-young understood something. At this time, the secretary told Do-young that Myung-oh had left some messages before he disappeared. The secretary saved them all on a USB. Do-young played the recording of Myung-oh while driving. After Do-young knew that Yeonjin had betrayed him, Do-young angrily returned home. He looked at the blue bags of clothes bought from expensive stores, neatly arranged in the dressing room. This made Do-young even angrier. At this moment, he finally couldn't hold back his emotions anymore. The next day, Do-young went to Jae-jun's store. Do-young wanted to prove his guess. He went into the fitting room. The bag inside was exactly the same as the bag at his house. There was not only a sofa in the room, but also all kinds of red wine. Do-young suddenly thought of what Yeonjin had said to him. Do-young finally understood that Yeonjin was not only having an affair, but Ye-sol was also Jae-jun's daughter. Only now did Do-young realize that he had been deceived for 10 years. On the other side, after Myung-oh learned that Yeonjin had killed So-hee, he wanted to use this matter to blackmail Yeonjin. So Myung-oh called a few people in the bullying group, including Dong-hee, to inform her. Dong-hee had known that Myung-oh would betray her, so she wasn't afraid at all. Myung-oh had always believed that he was innocent in So-hee's case, but Dong-hee said that there was no way he was innocent. Even if he died, it would still be a good thing for him. Dong-hee wished Myung-oh good luck. Only then did Myung-oh realize that So-hee's death was no threat to the bullies. The important thing was that Yeonjin had to admit it herself. So Myung-oh immediately made an appointment to meet Yeonjin privately. After the two met, Myung-oh had completely disappeared without a trace. Haejum then went to the police station to report Myung-oh's disappearance. disappearance. At Dong-hee's request, the first person to worry was Sarah, because the police would quickly find out about her drug use. Yeonjin was also very scared. She made an appointment to meet the bullies. Yeonjin learned from those people that Myung-oh had called them one by one before he disappeared. Moreover, Mang-oh had mentioned So-hee's death. The others suspected Yeonjin. They questioned whether she had really killed So-hee. Yeonjin recalled the incident on the rooftop in high school. After So-hee's clothes were burned, she asked Yeonjin for help. Yeonjin only pushed So-hee lightly, and she fell from the rooftop. Yeonjin laughed like a madman when she thought about the past. She laughed and cursed her friends for being mentally ill. The police quickly went to Jae-jun to find out the situation. Jae-jun said that he also didn't know about Myung-oh's death. Jae-jun said that before Myung-oh died, there was someone who was always looking for him. The police asked who was looking for Myung-oh. Jae-jun immediately answered that it was CEO Do-young of Jaepyeong Construction Group. Jae-jun said that Do-young also gave me his business card, but at that time, Do-young's eyes looked very suspicious. At the same time, Dong-hee also came to see Yeonjin. Dong-hee took out the evidence that Yeonjin bullied her in high school. Dong-hee originally intended to give Yeonjin a chance to apologize and make amends. Dong-hee said that she came here today to give Yeonjin one last chance, and this chance came from Do-young's politeness when he came to Dong-hee's house. Dong-hee also advised Yeonjin to go to the police station to confess or beg for forgiveness from the victim. That way, Dong-hee would immediately give up on revenge. But Yeonjin said that if she went to the police station, it would take up the entire news headline, and her life would be ruined. Yeonjin never felt that she had done anything wrong, and Yeonjin believed that Dong-hee's fate was destined to live in pain from the moment she was born and had nothing to do with Yeonjin. Yeonjin also said that Dong-hee can become a teacher now, thanks to what she did to Dong-hee in high school. Yeonjin was extremely arrogant and did not realize her mistake. At this time, Dong-hee no longer felt guilty. She told the police that she had handed over the evidence that Yeonjin had killed So-hee to the police a long time ago. It was Yeonjin's name tag that So-hee had torn off Yeonjin's shirt before she died. Unexpectedly, after Yeonjin's mother found out about this, she used her connections to get that name tag. So now Dong-hee had no evidence that Yeonjin had killed So-hee, and this fake name tag was just to lure Myung-oh into action. As for the real evidence, the police would need to personally collect it. Yeonjin's mother had not actually destroyed that name tag and was still keeping it. It was unknown what her intentions were. Elsewhere, Dong-hee gave the results of So-hee's investigation to the nurse. Because So-hee's mother did not believe that So-hee had left this world on her own, the mother was still looking for help at the hospital. She met Dong-hee by chance, so she gave Dong-hee the investigation report. Yo-jung said that So-hee was pregnant at that time. Dong-hee told the nurse about this. Dong-hee promised So-hee's mother that she would definitely avenge So-hee. That's why she persisted in taking revenge until now. Ever since Dong-hee's house was discovered by Yeonjin, Dong-hee has been staying at Yo-jung's house temporarily. When Dong-hee returned to her room, she started to pack up those photos, but when she finished packing and was about to leave, she suddenly realized that a photo was missing. Dong-hee immediately dumped all the photos on the floor and searched carefully. Only then did she remember that the missing photo was a photo of Hyun-nam's husband. Dong-hee immediately called Hyun-nam and told her to keep an eye on Yeonjin. The incident happened just as Dong-hee had predicted. The missing photo was in Yeonjin's hands. Yeonjin stood outside the car and told Hyun-nam to stop pretending. Yeonjin asked Hyun-nam to get out of the car quickly. Yeonjin used Hyun-nam's daughter to threaten her to help Yeonjin deal with Dong-hee. After succeeding, Yeonjin would not only help Hyun-nam kill her husband, but also give her a large sum of money. So Hyun-nam pretended to agree to Yeonjin's request, but in fact, Hyun-nam was still on Dong-hee's side. Hyun-nam told Dong-hee that from today on, she would be Yeonjin's person. Hyun-nam asked Dong-hee to take care of her daughter. After thinking about it, Dong-hee decided to let Hyun-nam's daughter stay at the teacher's house. Dong-hee told her not to contact anyone during this time. Dong-hee would quickly complete the procedures for her to study abroad. At the same time, Yeonjin also went to see Dong-hee's mother. Yeonjin told her that Dong-hee was currently working as a teacher at a city elementary school and received a civil servant's salary. If you could make Dong-hee resign from the school, this bag of money would belong to you. And so Dong-hee was about to be hurt by her mother again. While Dong-hee was teaching, the mother came to school and caused a ruckus, attracting everyone's attention. She asked where her daughter was. When Dong-hee saw her mother, her eyes were filled with fear. At night, the mother came to Dong-hee's room to cause trouble. Dong-hee thought that Yeonjin must have done this to get revenge on Yeonjin. Dong-hee told Hye-jung to make an appointment with Yeonjin at Yo-jung's plastic surgery clinic. After the two met, Hye-jung told Yeonjin that Dong-hee was a friend of Do-young's Go Club. The two of them often played Go together. Yeonjin didn't expect Do-young to be so close to Dong-hee. Hye-jung then continued to say things that provoked Yeonjin. Hye-jung also said that to know the mistake Yeonjin made with Dong-hee in high school, Do-young gave her this limited edition Hermes handbag, but their friendship prevented Hye-jung from doing that. Hye-jung said that, but in fact, she had told Do-young everything a long time ago. Yeonjin went home and questioned Do-young that she had so many friends. Why did he only go to see Hye-jung? Do-young asked Yeonjin back. Who should he ask? Sarah was was on drugs. Jae-jun was evil and scheming. Myung-oh was missing, and her mother spent a lot of money on a mage. Who should Do-young ask now? Yeonjun asked if he was really going to side with Dong-hee. At this point, Do-young couldn't control his anger anymore. He told Yeonjun that he had always been on Ye-sol's side. If she continued to do something wrong to him and their daughter, she would not need to say more. She would just have to wait quietly. But Yeonjun had no regrets. Do-young returned to the company to look at the photo of him and Dong-hee. Do-young wanted to know Myung-oh's whereabouts, so he made an appointment to meet Dong-hee at a restaurant in Seoul. After Dong-hee took off her coat, Do-young was surprised to find that there were many burn scars on her arms. Other customers passing by looked at her with strange eyes, but Dong-hee was used to it. Do-young looked at the scars all over Dong-hee's body. He could not believe that there were such cruel people in this world. He originally had many things he wanted to ask Dong-hee, but the scene just now helped him understand her determination for revenge. Dong-hee said that she hopes Do-young will divorce Yeonjun because her revenge is to make Yeonjun have no one by her side. Do-young asked why. Dong-hee replied that because she felt that Do-young was like an honor to Yeonjun. Dong-hee hoped that he could become a disgrace to Yeonjun. Do-young said that he would not divorce Yeonjun for now. He could not say why. In order to regain Do-young's affection, Yeonjun went to Yeojong's hospital to get cosmetic surgery, and so she fell into Yeojong's trap. After Yeojong injected Yeonjun with anesthesia, she lost consciousness. Yeojong asked her what she did to Myung-oh. Yeonjun was stunned when she heard that. It turned out that before Myung-oh went missing, the last person to meet him was Yeonjun. Myung-oh said that he knew Yeonjun was the one who killed So-hee, and the evidence that Yeonjun killed So-hee was in his pocket. Yeonjun worriedly grabbed the evidence from Myung-oh's pocket but found a condom. Myung-oh was even more certain that Yeonjun was the culprit who killed So-hee. He demanded that Yeonjun give him 1 billion won to cover up this or pay in other ways. Myung-oh then gloated and said insulting words to Yeonjun, not knowing that he was about to die. Yeonjun was so angry that she picked up the wine bottle on the table and smashed it on Myung-oh's head. When Yeonjun realized that Myung-oh wasn't dead, she continued to smash the wine bottle on him repeatedly until Myung-oh lost consciousness. Only then did Yeonjun stop. Yeonjun then immediately began to destroy the evidence. She also asked Yeonjun to dispose of Myung-oh's body. At this time, Yeonjun told Yeonjun that her leg had a scratch from Myung-oh. Perhaps there was still evidence on his fingernails. Yeonjun destroyed all the evidence that was unfavorable to Yeonjun, but at this time, Yeonjun had other intentions. He wanted to use this to blackmail Yeonjun, so he did not destroy Myung-oh's body but kept it in a funeral home. At this time, Yeonjun woke up from her dream. She immediately asked to investigate the hospital surveillance camera because she was afraid that what happened earlier would be recorded. She ran home like crazy and checked her body one by one to see if there was any blood on her body when she killed Myung-oh. Yeonjun was still scared because of what just happened. The next day, she took the initiative to give in and wanted to reconcile with Do-young, but Do-young's attitude was still extremely cold. Yeonjun doesn't understand why Do-young plays chess with Dong-hee. Do-young says that when he first met Dong-hee, he was curious about her. Then Dong-hee disappeared for a while. From then on, Do-young started to hope that she would appear. The next time they met, Do-young really wanted to play chess with Dong-hee, but he lost the initiative. This made him flustered. Yeonjun says that Do-young affair in his mind. Do-young says that this is also the reason why he asked Yeonjun about her and Jae-jun. Now, Yeonjun understands why Do-young is so angry. One day, Hee-jung suddenly remembers that Myung-oh has an iPad. The messages in it are synchronized with the phone. Hee-jung listens to the recording on the iPad and discovers evidence that Yeonjun killed Myung-oh. Hee-jung sends the recording to Jae-jun. Jae-jun thought about the surveillance camera at the store a few days ago, but it happened to lose the archive file that recorded the day Myung-oh went missing. Jae-jun knew for sure that Myung-oh's death was related to Yeonjun. If so, he could get custody of Ye-sol. Jae-jun asked Hee-jung if she wanted to marry him so they could take care of Ye-sol together. Hee-jung, who wanted to marry a rich man, agreed immediately. Yeonjun was not free at this time. She went to Hunnam's house. Yeonjun knew from Hunnam that Dong-hee had another person helping her, a doctor. After Yeonjun learned this news, she asked Hunnam to continue monitoring the actions of the bullies and report to her at any time. As punishment, Yeonjun did not give money to Hunnam's husband today. Therefore, he would come home earlier than usual. Hunnam was beaten again, and then the husband also discovered that his daughter was missing, so he beat Hunnam even more savagely. But as a mother, in order to protect her daughter, no matter how much pain she had to endure, Hunnam did not reveal her daughter's whereabouts. Their daughter had already boarded a plane to America and completely left the abusive father. While Hunnam was following Yeonjun, she discovered that he frequently went in and out of a suspicious-looking funeral home. In order to find out the purpose of his visit to the funeral home, the two of them also went there. Hunnam discovered that this place had been abandoned for a long time, but the electricity usage here was strangely high. Dong-hee also told Yeojung about her suspicions. The two of them guessed that Myung-oh's body was probably hidden there. The next day, Dong-hee and Yeojung went to the funeral home together, and as a result, they really found Myung-oh's body. But Dong-hee did not report it to the police. For safety, Yeojung bought the funeral home, and the security guards also became their men. Dong-hee tells Yeojung that even Even though they have found Myung-oh's body now, there is still no key evidence that can prove that the murderer is Yeonjin. Actually, when Yeonjin went to Yeojong's hospital for plastic surgery, he took advantage of the time when Yeonjin was still under the effects of anesthesia to take a DNA sample from her wound. As long as it was similar to the human tissue on Myung-oh's fingernails, he could reveal who the culprit was. Elsewhere, the school's gym teacher used the excuse of taking photos of the students, but did perverted things. After Dong-hee found out, she told the students to go back to class so she could punish the pervert. Dong-hee got the evidence of the secret photos from another teacher and then sent all the secret photos to Jae-jun. Jae-jun was furious when he saw Ye-sol in the secret photos. He immediately went to school, first removing the evidence from the camera, then he beat the pervert up. This cruel scene happened to be seen by Ye-sol. Ye-sol was scared and told this to Do-young. At the police station, Jae-jun refused to reconcile and wanted the pervert to go to jail. At this time, Do-young's lawyer took out a settlement agreement to resolve this matter. Do-young asked Jae-jun what right he had to prosecute the teacher. Jae-jun told Do-young that he was Ye-sol's biological father, but Do-young said that Jae-jun was even more of a bastard than he had imagined. Do-young asked Jae-jun if he had no shame, and then the two got into a fight. When fighting with Do-young, Jae-jun did not gain the upper hand. In the end, Jae-jun's nose was broken. In order to protect Ye-sol, Do-young could only take Ye-sol to her grandmother's house first. When Yeonjin came home and learned about the incident, she was extremely angry. She insisted that Do-young give her a reasonable explanation. Do-young was so angry thinking about Yeonjin's feelings. Do-young said that Jae-jun ran to Ye-sol's school to pretend that he was Ye-sol's real father, which made Do-young angry. Do-young asked Yeonjin if she was really confused. Do-young said that he knew everything. At this point, Do-young lost his patience and told her everything. He said that Yeonjin was only worried about his own safety and never cared about Ye-sol's feelings. Do-young also said that until now, she was still asking if he knew that Jae-jun was Ye-sol's real father, but Yeonjin still made excuses, saying that she had always tried to maintain this marriage. It was because Do-young insisted on exposing her sinful past that she had to do that. Do-young said that Ye-sol was his daughter, and even if they divorced, that wouldn't change. At this time, Dong-hee's mother was also playing tricks. First, she found Yeojong and asked to meet Yeojong as his mother-in-law, but Yeojong knew her purpose and didn't care. Dong-hee's mother also contacted the parents at Dong-hee's school and used Dong-hee's name to demand gifts. The parents who were deceived immediately went to find Dong-hee and asked her to return those gifts. Dong-hee was forced to find those luxury goods in the trash. When it was raining heavily, she angrily went to see her mother. Dong-hee questioned her mother about why you ruined my life again. Why could you collude with others to harm me like that? Why could you abandon me again? Why could you betray me like that? Then, Dong-hee took a pair of scissors and cut her mother's treasures. The angry mother hit Dong-hee, causing her face to be injured. Blood kept flowing down her face. Dong-hee couldn't believe her mother could be so cruel to her. This made her even more determined to take revenge. The next day, Dong-hee went to see Sarah. Through her connections, Dong-hee was able to buy the drugs that Sarah liked. When Sarah saw the drugs she liked, she couldn't resist. Dong-hee also sent a message to everyone at the church. She said that there was going to be a special performance in the church, and then everyone went to the location, Dong-hee said. Sarah also started to hallucinate after using the drugs, and she made a series of indecent gestures. When everyone saw that the famous artist had such a disgusting face, they quickly took out their phones to take pictures as evidence. After Yeonjin received the notice from Han-nam, she also went to the church. Yeonjin knew that this was Dong-hee's plan, but Yeonjin told Dong-hee that Sarah was trapped because it was her first time. Sarah would get out quickly. Yeonjin thought that Dong-hee wouldn't be able to defeat them, but Yeonjin didn't know that Dong-hee's friend had posted evidence of a weather reporter bullying her friends on social media. Immediately, the topic of drugs and bullying in school became a hot topic among netizens. Dong-hee told Yeonjin that although Sarah could escape quickly, Yeonjin had killed someone, and not just once, but twice. Yeonjin asked Dong-hee if she had any evidence. Dong-hee said that she had all the evidence. The video of Sarah doing something rude and the weather reporter bullying her friends quickly became the topic of discussion for everyone in their free time. Hyunam also posted a public comment saying that the weather reporter was Yeonjin. After reading countless negative comments, Yeonjin ran away. In order to prevent the company's stock from falling, Do-young went to see Yeonjin. He hoped that they could overcome this difficulty together. The lawyer took the evidence of Yeonjin bullying her friend when they were in school that was posted online and asked if this person was Yeonjin. Yeonjin still stubbornly refused to admit it. She thought that there was no more evidence that could prove that she bullied her friend, so there was no need to answer. Do-young was extremely disappointed when she saw that Yeonjin still did not regret it. At the same time, Jae-jun and Hae-jung were together. The two were talking enthusiastically when Hae-jung took out the recording of Yeonjin killing Myung-oh. Only then did Jae-jun remember that the expensive bottle of wine in his dressing room was also missing that day. Jae-jun realized that this was also the evidence that Yeonjin killed Myung-oh. Yeon-nam also told Yeonjin about the relationship between Hae-jung and Jae-jun. Yeonjin wanted to verify whether this was true or not, so she went to Jae-jun's house and met Hae-jung. Hae-jung said said that she was dating Jae-jun. They started the day before. Yeonjun congratulated Haejung. Then Yeonjun asked Haejung why you brought me to Yeojung's plastic surgery hospital, and Yeojung's identity was that he was the son of the director of Seoul Hospital. Yeonjun asked Haejung why she helped Dong-hee, and when she had been on Dong-hee's side. But now that Haejung had Jae-jun to protect her, she was more confident when talking. Haejung also did not give in to Yeonjun's arrogance anymore. Haejung went to the police station to visit Sarah, but in fact, it was to separate Sarah and Yeonjun. Haejung said that Yeonjun's bullying was made public but was covered up. It was all thanks to the news of Sarah using drugs, and today they published a newspaper accusing Sarah of tax evasion through an art exhibition. Sarah heard this and immediately thought differently. After leaving the police station, Sarah asked her mother about her old phone because there was video evidence of Yeonjun bullying classmates inside. Just because Sohee wore the same clothes as Yeonjun in high school, Yeonjun immediately asked Sohee to take them off on the spot. This scene was recorded by Sarah, but Yeonjun still refused to give up. Not only did she ask Sohee to take off her clothes, she also slapped Sohee several times. Sohee was weak and didn't dare to fight back. Do-young was very surprised when he saw the comments flooding the internet. He didn't expect his wife to be such a person. Do-young went to see Dong-hee to ask about Yeonjun. Dong-hee gave Do-young the address of Sohee's mother. Dong-hee told him to find out for himself. Do-young asked Dong-hee if she wanted to make Yeonjun suffer, then harming Yesol was the fastest way. But Dong-hee said that if she did that, he would also suffer. Do-young asked Dong-hee if she was happy after taking revenge. Dong-hee said that she just hoped that she was happy enough to die. She just hoped that happiness would be enough. Do-young finally investigated and found Sohee's body in a hospital in Seoul. The owner of this hospital was Yeojung, who often played chess with him. On the other side, Dong-hee opened a drawer at home and unexpectedly saw countless surgical instruments, along with letters sent from prison. From those letters, she learned that Yeojung had to live in pain every day. Actually, Yeojung thought the same as Dong-hee. He also wanted the bad guys to receive appropriate punishment. Yeojung originally wanted to be a doctor in prison, so he gave the documents to his seniors working there. Unexpectedly, Yeojung met the murderer who killed his father. This time, the prisoner finally told Yeojung the reason why his father died. At that time, the prisoner's arm was broken and extremely painful, but because he was a murderer, all the doctors did not want to operate on him. Only Yeojung's father followed the doctor's noble ideal. But before the surgery, Yeojung's father remembered his appointment with Yeojung. He was worried that Yeojung would eat instant noodles that were not good for health. The prisoner thought that it was an insult to him, so he used a knife to kill Yeojung's father right after the surgery ended. At that time, the prisoner really wanted to see what the doctor's son looked like. The prisoner said these words with a calm face, as if nothing had happened. Yeojung was heartbroken when he learned the truth. He did not know how to punish that evil prisoner. After returning home, Yeojung ate Dong-hee's cooking as usual. He did not let Dong-hee notice anything, but Dong-hee gave Yeojung a hug to comfort him. Although Dong-hee wanted to take revenge on Yeonjun, she still couldn't bear to take advantage of Yesol. Because of her mother's matter, Dong-hee had to quit her job at school. Before leaving, she met Yesol. Dong-hee told Yesol that if you asked, I would apologize to you before I died. After Dong-hee returned to her rented house, she wanted to kick her mother out, but her mother acted like a madwoman and criticized Dong-hee. Dong-hee's mother even wanted to stab Dong-hee to death with scissors. At this moment, the grilled meats startled her. Her mother knew that Dong-hee was extremely afraid of fire because of what happened in high school. Seeing her mother's mockery, Dong-hee became even angrier. While the two were arguing, the mother overturned the grill. The fire met the newspaper on the floor and immediately set the whole house on fire. The mother also declared that I wanted to die with you. The mother screamed at Dong-hee to admit her mistake to the mother and begged for forgiveness. But Dong-hee smiled and thanked her mother. She thanked her mother because her mother hadn't changed at all, and all of this was part of Dong-hee's plan. In the end, her mother was diagnosed with a mental problem by the doctor. Dong-hee personally took her mother to a mental hospital. She whispered in her mother's ear that she could only do this much, so Dong-hee's mother had to suffer the appropriate punishment, which was to live in the hospital for the rest of her life. Because Yeonjun was caught up in the school violence rumors, Yeonjun wanted to blackmail her before there was nothing left, so Yeonjun used Myung-mo's body to threaten her and asked Yeonjun to buy him a house in Hawaii. But before Yeonjun could agree, the police discovered Myung-mo's body. Yeonjun didn't expect this. The two of them hurriedly went to the body to confirm, but found that Myung-mo's body had disappeared. Then Hee-jung called Yeonjun and said that Myung-ho was dead. Hee-jung also had a recording of Yeonjun killing Myung-ho in her hand. Yeonjun went crazy after hearing it, and she accidentally dropped something in her bag, and this was also the thing that would make Yeonjun lose everything. Yeonjun learned through Jae-jun that the place where Myung-ho's body was discovered was the place where Sohee fell. Jae-jun told Yeonjun that there was a recording on Hee-jung's phone, and the bottle of wine he lost in the fitting room must have had Yeonjun's fingerprints. At this time, Yeonjun took Yesol as a reason to beg Jae-jun to help her provide evidence that she was not at the scene. Jae-jun once again agreed to Yeonjun's request. He went to Do-young and gave Do-young Myung-ho's recording. Jae-jun also used Yesol's custody to threaten threaten and demand Do-young to provide evidence that Yeonjun was not present at the scene. Thus, they became accomplices. Do-young was confused when he heard that and didn't know what to do. At the same time, Sara went to Yeonjun's house. Sara questioned Yeonjun why you used my bad news to hide your bad news. Sara also asked Yeonjun if you had revealed my tax evasion to the reporter yet. Before Yeonjun could finish speaking, she discovered that something was missing from her bag. She guessed that it must have been dropped when she went to see Myung-o's body, so Yeonjun took advantage of the dark to enter the funeral home to look for the missing item. Unexpectedly, Yeojong suddenly appeared at this time. Yeonjun could only use the excuse of looking for the restroom to escape, but Yeojong didn't want to let her go. He said that he saw Yeonjun just now, as if she was looking for something. After saying that, Yeojong opened his hand to show Yeonjun the item. He also told Yeonjun to take it, since didn't need any more evidence right now. At this time, Yeonjun received a text message from her mother asking her to come pick her mother up at the police station. It turned out that Hyun-nam had intentionally told her alcoholic husband that Yeonjun had killed someone. The husband, in order to extort more money, often called Yeonjun's mother to harass her. He even went to Yeonjun's mother's house to threaten her. Yeonjun's mother originally wanted to find Yeonjun for help, but was refused by him. Yeonjun's mother had no choice but to take a risk. She told the maid to contact Hyun-nam's husband and arrange a cash transaction in the evening. Hyun-nam's husband excitedly set off immediately. He didn't know that he wouldn't be able to return this time. In order to escape punishment, Yeonjun's mother also dragged Yeonjun. Just like that, with Yeonjun's accompaniment, Yeonjun's mother created a traffic accident, killing Hyun-nam's husband in the dark night. The two entered the police station in a state of panic. Seeing that the police chief was with them, the other policeman didn't say anything more and just sentenced it as a traffic accident. In order to stay away from Yeonjun's group, Yeonjun decided to take the money and run away. But Yeonjun's subordinates knew what he was thinking and also wanted to share the money. But Yeonjun used his identity to suppress the subordinate. The beaten subordinate couldn't bear it anymore and immediately took out a weapon to kill Yeonjun. After that, Hyun-nam went to the police station to receive the body. The moment she saw her husband, although she was extremely heartbroken, she still felt more liberated. A peaceful life was waiting for her ahead. When Yeonjun learned that the dead person was Hyun-nam's husband, she immediately realized that this was not simply an accident, but that her mother had intentionally killed someone. The maid was possessed by So-hee and kept asking Yeonjun, if you remembered me. Yeonjun was extremely scared when she heard that. She panicked watching the maid's actions and remembered everything she had done to So-hee. Yeonjun held a lighter to threaten So-hee. Yeonjun asked her to take off her clothes. Unexpectedly, the fire caught So-hee's clothes. So-hee was scared and called for help from Yeonjun, but Yeonjun refused and even pushed So-hee off the roof. Just like that, So-hee's life stopped forever at the age of 18. Unexpectedly, Dong-hee also witnessed everything. Dong-hee also discovered Yeonjun's name tag on her shirt and lighter at the scene. Yeonjun remembered all of these things. She turned her head and saw Dong-hee staring at her. The mage was still talking about how Yeonjun killed So-hee. Hearing that, Yeonjun's spirit fell into extreme panic, but the next scene really knocked her down. The mage kept talking and jumping, and in the end, the mage also was punished. The mage died mysteriously for no apparent reason. Yeonjun was scared and immediately left the scene, which also reminded Dong-hee of So-hee. After that, Yeonjun went to see Hyun-nam. Yeonjun questioned Hyun-nam and Dong-hee plotted to kill Hyun-nam's husband and even implicated Yeonjun's mother. Moreover, Yeonjun also used Hyun-nam's daughter to threaten her. At this time, Hyun-nam was no longer afraid of Yeonjun. She raised her hand and slapped Yeonjun, which was seen by Do-young. Do-young gave Yeonjun two choices. One was to go and apologize to the victim's family and give appropriate compensation. Two was to divorce. But until now, Yeonjun still did not admit that it was true that she killed So-hee. So Do-young quickly announced the news of his divorce from Yeonjun. He had completely abandoned her. Ye-sol also learned that her mother used a curling iron to burn someone. Ye-sol was afraid that her friends would not play with her anymore, so she also began to feel disgusted with Yeonjun. Sure enough, the parents and classmates at school all started to isolate Ye-sol because of this, but Do-young still considered Ye-sol as his own daughter. Do-young went to school to comfort Ye-sol and even welcomed Ye-sol to hug him. Ye-sol burst into tears and threw herself into Do-young's arms and apologized. Do-young said that everything that happened was not her fault. Because of Ye-sol, Do-young decided to go abroad to stay away from negative rumors. The bullies came to Myung-o's funeral. Hee-jung showed the video of Sara using drugs before. Sara misunderstood that Yeonjun did it to get revenge on her. Suddenly, Hee-jung's words made Sara realize that she had blamed the wrong person. Sara immediately pulled out the pen in her hair and stabbed Hee-jung in the neck. Fortunately, the police arrived in time to prevent the murder. Sara was once again arrested by the police. Later, Jae-jun went to see Yeojung to ask about the autopsy of So-hee's body. From there, Yeojung learned that So-hee was pregnant at that time, and the baby was Jae-jun's. Dong-hee had always thought that the baby was Myung-o's. At first, she had planned to let Jae-jun go, but now Dong-hee discovered that the whole group of bullies were evil people. At the same time, although Hee-jung was saved in time, she still couldn't speak normally. Jae-jun saw Hee-jung's ugly appearance and immediately proposed to break up. Haejung's dream of marrying into a rich family was shattered from here. Dong-hye wanted to help Haejung get revenge on Jae-jun, so Dong-hye came up with a way for Haejung. That was to add a medicine to Jae-jun's eye drops. Then, Haejung brought the prepared items to Jae-jun's house. While Jae-jun wasn't paying attention, Haejung secretly switched all of his eye drops. Then Jae-jun went to school to find his daughter and received news that Ye-sol had transferred schools. He worriedly contacted Do-young, but Do-young turned off his phone. While Jae-jun was driving angrily, he saw the road ahead becoming more and more blurry. The medicine had begun to take effect. Jae-jun immediately stopped the car to check the situation. At this time, a large truck rushed over, but fortunately Jae-jun was still not dead. He struggled to get to an abandoned factory. At this time, someone conveniently pushed Jae-jun fall. Jae-jun fell into the cement puddle just like that. The one who pushed Jae-jun down was none other than Do-young. Only when Do-young did that could he protect Ye-sol well. After finishing the job, Do-young happily took Ye-sol and started the journey abroad. On the other side, Dong-hye used the story of Yeonjun's mother driving and killing someone to threaten her. Dong-hye asked her to give Yeonjun's name tag and give up Yeonjun. After weighing the pros and cons to ensure her own safety, Yeonjun's mother gave the name tag to Dong-hye. But the conversation between the two was heard by Yeonjun. Yeonjun frantically screamed for her mother, crying miserably because she couldn't believe that her mother would abandon her. Yeonjun lived in fear every day. When Yeonjun saw the bottle of wine appearing in the video, she immediately went to the crime scene, and the police were already guarding there. Just like that, Yeonjun was arrested for intentional murder. Dong-hye then went to the detention center to meet Yeonjun. Dong-hye also brought Yeonjun some surprising news. At first, Yeonjun thought that she had killed Myeomo. The staff hid in the room, waiting for Yeonjun to leave. The staff investigated the situation and found that Myeomo was still alive, but the staff thought about how he was bullied by Myeomo and Yeonjun's gang in high school, so she took a bottle of wine and hit Myeomo on the head. Dong-hye then told the staff that he must confess that Yeonjun was the one who killed Myeomo, but now that Yeonjun knew the truth, she couldn't do anything. At this point, the bullies had all been punished appropriately. The homeroom teacher was killed by his son. Dong-hye's mother was sent to a mental hospital and lived in the hospital for the rest of her life. Myeomo was killed by Yeonjun. Jae-jun fell into a cement pit. Sa-ra was arrested. Haejung became mute and had to live in guilt. Yeonjun and her mother had to live in the detention center for the rest of their lives. The movie ends here. Thank you everyone for watching. Goodbye, and see you again in the next videos.